Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. I am Bill Caskey.
And I'm Brian Neal.
And we are so pleased you're with us today. We've got a very special two guests on, and we're really glad you joined us. If you have not already gone to our LinkedIn page and connected with us there, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/LinkedIn and get amongst the 10 to 11,000 people who are connected with us in our group there. Get some special stuff, and Brian and I post there occasionally as well.
Yeah, I was looking for an episode, so I was digging through our archives, which I normally don't do, and I was looking for a certain episode, and we have a lot of episodes, like 700 or something, don't we? We have a lot. Yeah. There's a lot there. So if you're a new listener,
too many. I think there's too many.
You
there.
think so? We got to pull some back. I was just really proud. I'm like, this is really good. And then I tell people all the time, what we basically did was just outlast everybody. But the episode I was looking for, though, was and so I'm asking Travis now live, was the episode where I interviewed my daughter, Anna, from ever ago. We couldn't figure out, it was about selling Girl Scout cookies from like 2014 or something, 12 maybe, I don't know. But that was fun. Speaking of my daughter, can I tell my kid's story?
Yeah.
So this is not political. I have to say that because we're not a political show. That's not what this is.
We talk politics before we hit record.
Yeah,
then we don't anymore.
We have, so my daughter Anna, who's 18, and you know Anna, she's super, super sweet kid. Really beautiful, works her butt off, everything. But great grades and everything. And we found out she's dyslexic after high school, right after, because she still struggled with testing and stuff and going to college. And she found out she has dyslexia. And she's learned to cope with it, which is good for her. And she does not see it as a disability for herself. She's really great that way. But I went down to see her at college, and at dinner, she said this. And she said, this is not political, by the way. She said very seriously to me, "Dad, when Joe Biden talks, it activates my dyslexia," she said. And she wasn't being political, but what she was saying, and I think it would go for any politician, she just said, because we were talking about politics, which is fun to talk about with your kids when they get older. But I think sometimes the speech of some of these politician guys on all cases, they jump in and out of stuff so much she can't like follow along. She's like, what are they saying? And then they're interrupting each other back and forth. But I just thought it was interesting that she said it activates my dyslexia. You know?
Well, I'm that way too a little bit. Sometimes I'll hear a politician or a leader or somebody interviewed, and it'll be remarkable at how I can follow them and how great of a communicator they are. And they set the context and they walk through their points. And it's in such stark contrast to most politicians who don't do that, who just ramble for 50 minutes or an hour and say nothing and jump around 17 topics. So what it reminds me of is when I hear somebody who's meticulous about communication, I always think, I could hear that person all day.
All day, exactly. It's an interesting thing.
Somebody who I thought, again, not to get political, but I thought was a very good communicator was Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yeah.
She had a very pleasant voice. Her line of reasoning was always very cohesive and coherent. I could follow her, and she didn't get very far. So there you go. Yeah. So maybe that's a problem.
I was saying to someone, like, there's 330 million of us in the country. There's only like 500 federal politicians. What are we missing here? Because we're all thinking the same thing. Like, out of 330 million, we got like 500 people total, maybe 700 people total kind of running the place. Surely to God, we've got better options. Anyway, that is political.
That's as much
across the
political
board.
as we'll get. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So our special guest today, we had them on last year, pre-pandemic, pre-disruption, Ben Parker and Aaron Bollinger from a company called Kronologic. They are advertising partners with us. They were last year for a bit, and they are right now. And we're going to be doing a webinar, actually, with Aaron coming up on October 21st, How to Sell More with Video in 2021. And these guys are experts, not just at video production, but at using video in the sales process. And so we're going to tap into some of their knowledge on this webinar. If you're not on our email newsletter list, make sure you go to advancedsellingpodcast.com, and there will be a place there for you to jump on that list. But everybody on our list will get an invite. We'll also put it in social. We'll put it on LinkedIn. So if you're connected there, that would be awesome. So Ben, Aaron, welcome to the Advanced Selling Podcast once again.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be back.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, great to see you, Bill, Brian. Been too long.
Yeah,
Lots,
seriously.
lots has changed since you were here last. I think it was last year, maybe fall. And so we're really glad to have you and also to be presenting this live webinar masterclass with you here in a little bit too. So why don't we just ask you a few questions? Brian, do you have the first question? And you can tee up.
We
and then
prepared this.
I've got one too. But
It sound like you're passing it off to a moderator of a debate. So
Yeah, well,
both
I
of
am.
you have agreed to the rules of this interview.
That's right.
Right? Both of you have
and
agreed
we
to the
can
rules.
shut your mic down.
That's
in a
right.
heartbeat.
Yes, and we're going to give you 2 minutes each to answer.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. No, thank you.
No.
Let's see. Yeah, so I thought and I teed this up a little bit with both of you. I want to first just talk about the landscape for sales professionals, the landscape of prospecting and trying to secure meetings. I want to talk generically about it first, and then drill into. You all have a great perspective, I think, in all markets, but we tend to play a little bit more in this with our consulting businesses in the mid-market, maybe lower. You have a great view of the enterprise, and I would be interested in that. So maybe start generically, what has changed, and what have you observed occurring in terms of prospecting strategies, ideas, since we entered into a pandemic? Start with Ben.
Sure. Yeah, I would say at the highest level, I think a lot of the fundamental things about how people interact person to person still hold true, right? People still want to know that you're speaking to them as an individual. People still want to feel like there's value in the exchange for them. Some of the things that I've seen stacked up against the sellers of the world right now stem from the fact that most companies and thereby most buyers in a B2B situation are now remote. And I don't know about you guys, but I generally don't go running around putting my direct cell phone number in my email signatures or listing it publicly or any of those elements. And so what we're finding is a need to get much more creative and much more relevant and much more valuable just even in the initial opening salvo of a conversation than maybe previously we had to be, specifically because if you're picking up your phone and dialing against the number that you've got in Salesforce against that contact, or maybe the number that they've listed in their email signature, the likelihood that that is getting either pushed to their the computer that they're working on at home, or that they have a soft phone set up and have that pushing to their cell phone is pretty low. Your likelihood of connecting through the phone is dropped.
That's excellent. I love the idea of there's more the same than we tend to think. Right? We tend to think, oh, the world's changed. Bill and I were going to try to say new normal as much as we could in this one on purpose because we don't like that saying, but we do. So, Aaron, what about you? 2 minutes to you, Aaron. I'm kidding. That's kind of a fun game.
Mr. Parker had his 2 minutes. I'd like to have mine.
That's great.
Biggest change I've seen is that the time management strategy is very different than it's ever been, because as someone that's been in sales now for 15 years, I think back to how much of my time was driven by in-person activities where there were physical logistics involved, like literally different business trips that I would have to different hubs for clients, different events that I would attend. And then a lot of in-person internal meetings would drive a significant part of my entire calendar, was around my physical availability. And now all of that's gone. I could meet with anybody at any time about anything, as long as they would give me that time in their calendar. So one of the most powerful new concepts I've seen emerge is this idea that meeting acceptance is a lead qualification. In the past, getting a meeting was kind of like the final formality of an exchange of value and interest and engagement. And now I see it as it's actually how people signal that they're actually interested in a particular conversation or not. And I've seen for myself and my team, that's how that's changing our time. It's no longer, hey, we're going out to San Francisco for a week. Let's go meet with all the clients and prospects we know in the Bay Area. It's now, let's propose meetings. Maybe it's demos, maybe it's catch-ups, maybe it's 2021 planning sessions with anybody that we think the timing might be right for. And if they accept the meeting, we know that they're in market at the moment. And if they don't, that's a good sign that they're not in market at the moment. And that's something that I didn't do before everything was so virtual and flexible.
That's great.
So you're being a little more, I don't know, you're kind of taking the customer's reaction to that as a sign of whether you should even spend any more time. Because I think in the old world, the old normal, the idea is, well, we're going to work like hell and we're going to throw everything we can at the meeting and we can hopefully get it. And you're like, well, if they don't take the meeting, it obviously means they're not really that interested.
Yes.
I love that.
You would fall back on, hey, I'll get some time with them in person in their office in Chicago. We'll build some rapport,
Yeah.
and that relationship will start to open them up. But now that can't happen. That in-person relationship building can't happen. So I would just rather, propose opportunities to connect with several prospects that I think the timing might be right, and just see what happens. If none of them give me half an hour, that's a sign. And if all of them, give me half an hour in their calendar, that's a strong signal too.
Yeah. I've got a question. I don't know who to direct this to, but I have this feeling deep down in my soul that buyers today today and going forward are going to be a little bit less, let's interview 17 vendors for this, and a little bit more, let's interview 2 and let's move quickly. And we don't need to go through the whole process. Let's just find the people who are easy to do business with. And the easier you are to do business with, whether it's using the Kronologic tool, whether it's providing value prior, whether it's just the way you conduct yourself in a meeting, those vendors are going to be much more likely to get the business rather than because buyers are going to be moving quicker. I have nothing to base that on. It just feels like that's the case. You care to comment on that one way or another? Refute it.
2 minutes
Please
each.
refute it.
2 minutes each.
I mean, imagine how much time everybody is saving from not commuting, not traveling to events, not traveling to on-sites, and probably less internal meetings, or at least more efficient internal meetings, because they're just more likely to get down to business when you're not actually in person. And I don't know if that's a good thing for our psychology over the long term, day in and day out, but it definitely is more efficient. So I have seen sales cycles moving faster recently this year than in the past. And I think in person was a natural decelerator
impediment
to a lot of sales cycles, because they say, well, let's wait till next month when we can meet in person.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now there's just no good reason to do it unless there's we have to wait for budget, or we have to wait for somebody else's availability. And executive availability seems to be at all-time highs too, because they're not traveling.
Yes. This is so great for our listeners to hear, because so many people still believe the old normal, not the new normal, Bill.
Ouch.
That is that these people are difficult to. I agree with you totally, Aaron, that the accessibility people, because they're all of a sudden like, I have all this time for all those reasons you said. And and they want to talk to people. We're creatures of interactions, most of us, not all of us, but want to interact. So people are looking for that. So.
Yeah, I think also, and then Ben, we'll get to your answer, although Aaron did take a little bit of your time.
I think Ben will trump that.
Sometimes we get so clever about, Zoom, and is it a 2-camera shoot or a 3-camera shoot? Do we have the right lighting? And we forget the most basic stuff, like, is my phone number in my email sig line? Because I got an email the other day from a potential vendor, and it was from his phone, and there was nothing. There was no email address. It was, he sent his through email, but there was no number. And he said, call me when you get a chance, and he left no number. And I thought, well, there's an example of just a miss. And so the question I would have for our listeners is, as you get more into thinking digitally, do you have some of the small bases covered, like, is your email sig in your phone, or is your phone number in your email signature line? When someone needs to get back with you, are you making it easy to get back with you, or are you making it difficult? So some of those simpler things I think we should take a look at.
It's good. Can Ben answer the question?
Yeah, Ben, answer the question. Come on, man. You've been stalling too long.
Sure thing, sure thing. Yeah, no, I think Brian, I believe it was you who's talking about, or actually, no, this might have been you, Bill, but talking about ease of doing business.
Yeah,
If you're a
Bill.
vendor that's just easy to get along with, yep.
Yep.
If you're just easy to get along with, you can see things moving faster. I think there's surely a component of that. It's interesting, we're in October now. We're moving further and further away from kind of the initial big rock hitting little pond of the pandemic becoming part of everyday life. Um, and it feels like things are starting, at least on the buying side, to move back to normal a little bit. But I noticed just an interesting dichotomy. And you're speaking earlier about your team having a ton of experience in the mid market, and asking what are we kind of seeing on the enterprise side. I can tell you we saw almost an inversion in Q1 and Q2, or from Q1 and Q2 of this behavior.
Hmm.
When the pandemic hit, the smaller businesses, at least in our experience, the ones that we were working with, really got straight into execution. And it makes sense, right? There are just fewer minds that have to come together. There are fewer line items in a budget that have to be rebalanced, et cetera. They can just move faster. And we saw that sales cycles moved actually quite rapidly for us, but almost exclusively on the SMB side, virtually nothing in enterprise. And then as soon as we started hitting our first few equilibrium points, and leaders in enterprise kind of saw the path that they wanted to take, and the rest of the teams got moving with them, we saw, I don't necessarily want to say a reversal, but I will say it feels like the mid-market side has slowed down to normal instead of just fast, frenetic pace. And the enterprise side is starting to feel almost like a fast, frenetic pace. It's like, we're going to take our time. We're going to make sure all the pins are lined up the way that we want them. But once they're lined up, it's time to move.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I love that. And I felt that too. I even felt it with us. Like, I felt like we went into like action mode really fast. In all businesses, even in like consumer, like restaurants and stuff. There are restaurants that just like turned into a grocery store in literally a day. I love that. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. And you didn't see Procter & Gamble didn't turn into a pharmaceutical company that fast. Although they do have a pharmaceutical company. I can say that because I used to work there. I love those guys. I have a question for you two as leaders, a little kind of off the topic of the getting meetings and leads and stuff. I want to talk about culture, team culture. And how are you, and what have you seen work to keep culture together and positive and optimistic and accountable when you're remote? Both the sales culture itself as a team, but also if there are individual listeners of ours where you're thinking, if I was giving advice to a listener and you're trying to impact your team's culture, but you're not the sales manager, what can a listener do to impact their sales culture in a positive way? Ben, 2 minutes. I love saying that. That's a fun game to play. Take as long as you want.
Sure. So there are a couple things, right? And I think I'll share even some growth opportunities for myself and for us as well. One thing I would share is I hope I'm not misattributing this quote, but I believe it was Dale Carnegie who was saying, you can be efficient with tasks, but you have to be effective with people. And the remote nature of the work that we've been doing lately drives you to almost to attempt the opposite. It makes you attempt to be efficient with people as well as efficient with tasks. And that's totally doable on a couple day, couple week timeline. But as it stretches into months, relationships really will start to suffer. And so this is almost a reminder to myself too, but try to find time, whether it's a little bit before the day kicks off, or maybe, at 5:30 as things are winding down, to just check in on some of those really important relationships with your team, with your leadership, with your peers. Do a crazy thing. Call them in an unstructured manner and just great. Talk to them. Yeah. Ask them about what's going on in their lives. Try to connect on something that isn't always work. I'm smiling because Aaron and I do this all the time. We're like, hey man, yeah, we spend, 99% of our relationship in this like pressure cooker of a situation, and we rarely take it upon ourselves to like, pull our heads out and just go, hey man, what are you and the family doing this weekend? Where are you
Right.
guys headed? Is there anything fun you have planned in your backyard? Something like this.
Yes. That's good. Really good. I love that. I love the call through something weird, like call them. I love that. Aaron, what about your take on that?
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, we're, I was thinking about the other day, literally from the moment that Ben and I have met each other, it has been high stress in our lives about 99% of the time, maybe 95. And so just using our relationship as an example, having a time that is declared kind of a low stress, no stress, we're just going to forget about business for usually probably a 3-day weekend is probably the most we can get away with that these days. But just having that time, and we had an executive offsite a couple of weeks ago at a new hotel that had opened, and the public wasn't really in there yet, so we had some time, and that really helped. We were socially distanced, of course, but it gave us a chance to have that kind of a formally, no stress conversations. Which was really, really helpful. And then the other thing I would add is, I have a meeting I call virtual coffee, and I do it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we sit down and have coffee. And for the first few months of the pandemic, things were so dramatic that it was just really totally open format. Just how is the conversation going to go? And I think that was great during those uncertain times. Now that we're coming back into more normal times, we have virtual coffee, but we have a little bit of format built into it. So, in fact, I got this from you guys. One of your, I don't remember if it was an insider tip or, it was one of the tips that you had in a recent episode where you talked about rating 0 to 10.
Yeah. Checking in,
no fives,
Yep.
using that force as a forcing function to get people to connect a little bit of their personal lives into. So what we do, Brian, you had talked about the 0 to 10, no fives for, I think it was maybe a work day, or I forget what it was.
Yeah, we do. We check in business and life. We actually go 0 to 7, no fives. So it makes you get on one side of the fence or the other. 0 to 7, no 5. 7's awesome. 0 sucks. That's the speed.
Awesome. Okay. So that format, and then the only thing I've done is on Monday mornings we do it for your weekend. So everybody rates their weekend.
Oh, that's good.
It forces everybody to inject a little bit of their personal life. They don't. But into the beginning of the business week to remind us that we're all people and we all care if each other has a good weekend. It's meaningful.
I love it.
I want one of you to share a little bit about Kronologic and what you all do there before we sign off. But I did hear something. I don't know how I would feel if I were Ben and Aaron said, from the time we first met, it's been nothing but stress.
Both of them. They both said
that, didn't they? Yeah,
it's time to go to marriage counseling right out of the gate.
Nothing. 99% of the time since I met you.
Bill and I, since 1997.
What is this for punishment?
23 years of stress for me and Bill, too. This sucks. Like, we can't wait to get out of the studio.
I'm just teasing you guys.
It's good stuff. I love it. It's good stress. Go ahead.
Yeah. So tell us, one of you give us a minute on Kronologic and what you guys do and how you help companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ben, please.
Sure thing.
I love the delegation.
I guess at the highest level, what Kronologic does is it unites people, those external to a company and those internal to a company, at the right moment for them to have a discussion about something that moves both of their interests forward. Now that's highly abstract, but let's apply it to some very specific examples. Obviously, we have a sales audience here, so in that sense, Kronologic is most applicable through a sales cycle. Kronologic is an AI solution that will automatically broker meetings between you and your highest propensity prospects, completely in the background, hopefully without you even having to lift a finger. Now, you can apply that elsewhere in the business, right? Customer success is another huge area of ours, right? Really important relationships there must be highly attentive. And Kronologic is focused on uniting the right people at customer accounts that, maybe need to be onboarded or might be showing product usage droppage, those sorts of things with the right customer success or account management resources.
Yeah, and Bill, I'd love to just add on just a quick note to Ben's explanation. So the for the sales audience here, a lot of sellers out there are improving their approach. They get really good at the sales cycle. But what do they tend to say? Well, we just need more at-bats. Kronologic gets you more at-bats. We fill up your calendar and we give you a lot more at-bats for your team.
Awesome.
In action, you can actually get an invite from our AI at Kronologic. That's Kronologic with a K. Kronologic.ai/getademo. GETADEMO.
Awesome. Is there anything better than coming in and
Putting
having a
people
bunch of calendar invites?
Yeah.
Scheduled prospecting meetings that happened over the weekend. I would like that. That's a cool thing. Anyway,
We are going to be doing a live webinar, a master class called How to Sell More Using Video. Now, how to sell more with video in 2021. And Aaron, you're going to be helping us with that and kind of bringing some ideas to the table. So if you have not gone to download or have not gone to our website to get on our email list, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com. And also we'll be promoting it through the LinkedIn group feed as well. So we're looking forward to that, Aaron, and we'll see you guys here in a couple of weeks.
cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for moving.
Bill, Brian, great speaking with you again.
Likewise.
job.
Have a good one. See you next time, the Advanced Selling Podcast. Bye.
All right. Yeah.
Out.